March 1945. A muddy field near Kassel, Germany. 2,000 German prisoners sit behind thin wire. They are hungry. They are restless. The air is cold. A column of trucks rumbles into the camp. They carry white military police. These men are green. They are tired. They drove 30 miles to get here. Just 500 meters away, Captain Marcus Webb and his black MP company watch from their jeeps. They are trained. They are rested. They are ready. But they are ordered to stay back. Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Farnsworth says the Germans won't obey them. He says it is a matter of prestige. The delay grows. 6 hours pass. The prisoners begin to stand. The line is ready to snap. George S. Patton is on his way. He has no time for prestige. He has a verdict that will turn the colonel's world upside down. This is the story of an American colonel who left 2,000 enemy prisoners unchecked, rather than let black soldiers do their jobs. And the moment George S. Patton decided that military efficiency outweighed personal bias. Before we continue, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We tell the forgotten World War II stories that show what happens when the truth is more dangerous than the enemy. Marcus Webb was 30 years old. He hailed from Baltimore, Maryland. He served as the commander of a black military police company attached to the Third Army. Before the war, Marcus was a high school history teacher. He joined the service because he believed that the uniform would finally earn him the respect his master's degree never could in the Jim Crow South. He had seen the freezing slush of the Ardennes and the red mud of the Saar. He had lost his younger brother, a corporal, to a German sniper's bullet during the chaotic retreat near Metz. That loss lived in his eyes, a silent, hard flame. Marcus had spent months drilling his men until they were the sharpest unit in the Corps. They knew every regulation. They knew every procedure for handling prisoners. Now he sat in his jeep, watching the clock. He was only 500 meters from the wire. He was ready to work, but he was ordered to wait. Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Farnsworth was 48. He was the provost marshal, a man from Little Rock, Arkansas, who viewed the military through the lens of old-world status. Farnsworth believed in a rigid, inherited order. He argued that German prisoners of war would not respect the authority of the United States if that authority wore a black face. He believed that using Negro soldiers for prestige duties would undermine the very victory they were fighting to achieve. To Farnsworth, the German soldier was a professional who expected a certain class of captor. He spoke of military prestige as a physical asset, something that could be spent or saved. While the front lines crumbled under the weight of thousands of surrendering Germans, Farnsworth sat in a warm, requisitioned office. His boots were polished to a high black gloss that caught the light of the fire. His field jacket was a custom-tailored piece, devoid of a single speck of German dust. He had spent his morning coordinating a white MP unit from 30 miles away. He was willing to risk a security breach just to keep his vision of the world intact. The German heartland broke in March 1945. The Rhine was a memory. The Western Wall had crumbled. Tens of thousands of German soldiers were throwing down their rifles. They walked toward American lines in a gray-green tide. They were not fighting for the Reich anymore. They were fighting for a meal and a dry place to sleep. The infrastructure of the Wehrmacht had evaporated. In its place was the chaos of a total collapse. The Allied advance moved so fast that the rear area logistics could not keep pace. Food was short. Fences were temporary. Command was a mess of radio static and hurried maps. In this atmosphere, many American officers operated on old habits. The Army was segregated by law and by custom. Often, white commanders ignored the capabilities of black units. They saw them as labor. They did not see the trained professionals standing in front of them. Many officers let this inefficiency slide. They accepted delays. They prioritized the social order of the American South over the tactical needs of the European war. But the situation in Kassel was different. It was not just a delay, it was a fuse. 2,000 men were huddled in a field with no one to search them, no one to process their names, no one to check for hidden grenades or knives. The pressure inside the wire was building with every passing minute of the 6-hour wait. The prisoners were hungry. They were tired. They were beginning to realize they outnumbered their guards 50 to 1. The mud of the processing center began to churn as the sun hit its peak. Captain Marcus Webb walked into the heated command tent. The smell of tobacco and expensive coffee was thick. He snapped a salute. He stood at attention. "Sir, my men have been sitting in their jeeps for 6 hours. Webb said. Farnsworth did not look up from his mahogany field desk. I know exactly where your men are, Captain. The prisoner count is now over 2,000, sir. The wire is holding, but it is thin. The 412th is moving as fast as the German mud allows. The 412th is 30 miles to the west, sir. My company is 500 meters from the gate. I have issued my orders. Webb, you are to remain in reserve. My men are fully trained in processing and interrogation, sir. We can have that backlog cleared by sundown. Farnsworth finally set his silver pen down. He looked at Webb's boots. Your men are not needed for this specific task. Respectfully, sir, the security of this entire sector is at risk while those men remain unchecked. I will be the one to decide what constitutes a risk in this camp, Captain. The field manual is clear about using the nearest available units during a prisoner surge. I did not ask for a lecture. I don't need a school teacher from Baltimore to tell me about regulations. The prisoners are hungry, sir. They are starting to realize how few guards we have on the perimeter. They are German soldiers. They understand rank. They understand who won this war. They won't care about the nuances of rank if they decide to break that fence. Colonel, they will care if the man holding the rifle looks like a victor they can actually respect. My men are soldiers of the United States. They have earned that respect in combat. They are colored personnel, Captain. Having them process German prisoners undermines the authority of our mission. The prisoners just want a hot meal and a blanket, sir. They aren't looking at skin color. It is a matter of prestige. I will not lower the standing of the American Army to suit your social goals. This isn't about goals. It is about 2,000 unchecked enemies sitting in an open field. I will not have these Germans thinking we have run out of real white soldiers to guard them. Is that an official refusal of tactical support, sir? It is a direct order to return to your unit and stay out of my sight. Webb saluted. His hand was a block of stone. He turned and walked out of the tent. He went straight to the radio jeep. He contacted the 3rd Army provost. He did not complain. He did not use adjectives. He gave the cold numbers. 2,000 prisoners. A 6-hour delay, a mounting security risk, a refusal to utilize available trained assets. The report moved up the chain of command. It moved with the speed of a bullet. It bypassed the usual bureaucratic stops. It landed on a desk where military efficiency was the only law. The report reached Patton within the hour. A dust cloud appeared on the western horizon. It was not a truck column. It was a single jeep. The vehicle moved with a purpose that felt like a physical weight. It skidded to a halt outside the command tent. George S. Patton stepped out. His 4 stars caught the gray sunlight. His ivory-handled revolvers sat heavy on his hips. The camp went silent. Patton walked into the tent without a word. He looked at the map. He looked at the clock. Then he looked at Farnsworth. Colonel, how many prisoners are in that field? Patton asked. 2,000, General, Farnsworth replied. How many are processed? None yet, sir. We are waiting for the 412th. Why is the company 500 meters away not working? Farnsworth straightened his tailored jacket. They are colored personnel, sir. I felt it would damage our prestige in the eyes of the enemy. You prioritize German perception over American security? I thought it best for the long-term order, sir. Patton stepped closer. His voice was a low, steady hum. You have a very strange idea of what a German soldier respects, Colonel. A German soldier respects the man who beats him. He respects the man who puts him behind wire and keeps him there. He does not care about the shade of the hand that locks the gate. He cares about the gun and the badge. Captain Webb's men have those guns. They have those badges. They have been trained by this army to do a job you are currently refusing to let them finish. You have left 2,000 enemies unchecked in a vulnerable sector. That is not prestige. That is a dereliction of duty. You worry about the victor's standing. The only standing that matters is the one that keeps my soldiers alive and the enemy contained. You have failed both. You have created a crisis because you are more concerned with a German's feelings than an American's efficiency. Webb's men are 500 meters away. They are ready to work. They are ready to secure this camp. You have been sitting here for 6 hours while the threat grew. That time is over. You have 2 choices. You will walk out of this tent right now. You will personally lead Captain Webb's company into that camp to begin processing every single prisoner. Or you will be relieved of command and spend the next week inside that wire as a prisoner yourself. You can see exactly how much they respect your prestige when you are sleeping in the mud with them. Decide now. You have 10 seconds. Farnsworth's face went white. He reached for his helmet. He didn't say a word. He turned and walked out into the cold. Farnsworth stepped out into the biting wind. Patton watched from the tent flap. The colonel walked the 500 meters to Webb's unit on foot. He looked like a man heading to his own execution. The white MP units who had just arrived watched in silence as their superior officer approached the black company. Webb stood by his jeep. He did not smile. He did not gloat. He simply waited. Farnsworth gave the order. His voice was thin and cracked against the rumble of idling engines. For the next 2 hours, the colonel stood in the churned mud at the main gate. He did not sit. He did not return to his heated office. He watched as Webb's men moved with lethal efficiency. They stripped the Germans of their gear. They recorded names. They checked for hidden steel. The German prisoners looked at the black MPs. They saw the weapons. They saw the discipline. They obeyed every command without hesitation. The 2,000 men were processed and secured in record time. The dangerous backup evaporated. When the last prisoner was through the wire, Patton handed Farnsworth a set of travel orders. The colonel was relieved of his post effective immediately. He left the camp in a dirty truck. His polished boots were finally covered in the thick, gray mud of the processing line. Marcus Webb returned to Baltimore in the autumn of 1945. He went back to his classroom. He taught history to a new generation who saw the world differently because of the war. He never spoke about the colonel or the ivory revolvers. He kept a small brass whistle in his desk, the one he used to direct the lines at Kassel. He died in 1994 at 79. 3 men from his old company attended the service. They still called him Captain. Thomas Farnsworth was sent to a supply depot in the Pacific. He never held another command. He retired in 1948 and returned to Little Rock. He lived a quiet life in a house filled with aging uniforms. He remained bitter until his death in 1968. He was convinced the military had sacrificed its dignity for speed. He never realized the prestige he protected was a ghost, and the efficiency he ignored was the only thing that won the war. George S. Patton made one brief mention of the day in a letter to his wife. He did not dwell on the politics. He focused on the result. He wrote that he had found a colonel who preferred a crisis to a change in habit. He noted that the backlog was cleared because the men on the ground knew their business. He believed a soldier's value was measured by the speed of his work. Some historians argue that Patton's intervention was less about social progress and more about his relentless obsession with military momentum. They suggest his actions were purely transactional, driven by a cold necessity for logistics rather than a genuine concern for racial justice. Others argue that regardless of his private views, Patton's refusal to entertain the prestige argument shattered a dangerous precedent. By prioritizing competence over the racial status quo, he forced the military hierarchy to confront the professional reality of black units during the war's final chaos. What is certain is that the black companies of the Third Army successfully processed tens of thousands of prisoners, proving that tactical efficiency remained the final arbiter of victory. If you had been in Patton's position, would you have done the same, or would you have simply ordered the white MPs to work faster? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more stories about what happens when the truth is more dangerous than the enemy, make sure you subscribe.